Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Jen and today I want to talk about fantasy romance. I don't know if it's just me, but the second August first hit, I felt like a cosmic shift. And after spending the last several months reading almost entirely contemporary romance, my inner dark child started to peek her head up, and now I am starting to crave dark fantasy romances. So I thought, might as well make a Trope Tuesday, but in a subgenre perspective video where I kind of will show you a few of my favorite fantasy and paranormal. I actually included paranormal in here as well because some of those are super dark and vibey anyway. And some of them, sometimes it crosses the line or blurs the line. So I'm including both fantasy and paranormal romances, both that I would recommend to you, but also the top books I've got on my TBR, and hopefully this will help me pick them as we head into the fall spooky time of year that I hate in general, because first of all, it's still hot here and I'm actually content with that. I do not like winter, but hopefully this is the time of year that I like to read these the most. So I'm super excited to share this list with you. The first recommendation, I'm going to have to rely a little bit on Goodreads because I don't remember a lot of the specifics except, but that is A Heart of Blood and Ashes by Milla Vane. This is book 1 in the Gathering of Dragons series. Oh, the back of the book matches Goodreads, so we can rely on the back of the book. It says, a generation ago, the Western realms were embroiled in endless war. Then the Destroyer came. From the blood and ashes he left behind, a tenuous alliance rose between barbarian riders of Parasith and the walled kingdoms of the south. This alliance is all that stands against the return of an ancient evil, until the barbarian king and queen are slain in an act of bloody betrayal. So the act of bloody betrayal is happens against our hero, who is Maddox, and he does not want to be the ruler, but he is basically forced into a marriage with Yevine. I'm very bad with fantasy names sometimes. This is an arranged marriage, a little enemies to lovers. Actually, it's a lot of enemies to lovers. Barbarians. I did not think I was going to enjoy this, and I thoroughly did. I think my only problem was an overuse of the C word, and there was one other that I can't remember what it is. I think he uses are they mates? It's not quite that. It's not they. But there was some other word that I can't remember what it is now, which is fantastic. Overuse of the C word and an overuse of something else. But other than that, I really enjoyed this. Watching the relationship develop between the two, this was really a good time. And wish I remembered more about this. I do own the second book, and the third book just got pushed out to 2023. So I will reread this at some point and continue on the series, because I think each book follows a different couple, but there is an overarching plot that ties everything together, which I really like, especially in romances where every couple is different. It's nice to have something that just ties them all together. Next, I have a couple vampires. I'm a vampire girl, Team Edward, only because the other option was werewolves. Quite literally. And the first one is going to be Halfway to the Grave, and just the Night Huntress series, the Night Huntress World by Janine Frost. This book my copy is falling apart. This ended up in the back of the bookshelf and got a little more damage than it already was. I cover bought this at Borders, the year it came out. I don't know, it was on a shelf. What year did this come out? Where the hell is the title page? There's usually a page. There it is. 2007. So I bought this. Twilight was a cover buy for me too. But also, disclaimer, since I guess I might as well, because it popped into my head, I was a vampire person long before Edward Cullen even existed. But I was also a twihard, so whatever. Anyway, Halfway to the Grave and the Night Huntress series follows Kat, who is half vampire, half human. And in vengeance for her father, who basically raped her mother, got her pregnant, and then just left her, kills other vampires. But then she's captured by Bones, a vampire bounty hunter, and is forced into an unholy partnership, which is pretty accurate. This is starts out very enemies to lovers. And Bones is a vampire, and he is so wonderful. And it's basically the relationship between Cat and Bones as they learn. First of all, Bones kidnaps her, basically, and so they have to learn to get along, learn to then to work together, and then in the process kind of fall in love. And the end of this book is magnificent. There's several books in this series. It's like a 7-book. Okay, so it's 7 books is the main Cat and Bones series. There are 2 spin-off actual series and then like some other spin-off books. All of them are wonderful. Cat and Bones will forever be my favorite. But there are like 7 books in here. Some of them make me cry. It's just wonderful. It's a really good example of books, longer series that follow the same couple, and how having this paranormal plot line in the background or around it, because it's not always the same thing. Because you know, it's not quite Monster of the Week, but like Monster of the Book, I guess. But like, there's enough that it keeps the plot moving, and you're not getting bored in the middle, which super important, especially if you've got 7 books. But these 2, if she writes 7 more, I will read them. This one is also a paranormal romance, also in the Night Huntress world, but also kind of has that fantasy, more of a fantasy bit to it, and that is Shades of Wicked, or the Night Rebel series by Janine Frost. This follows Ian and Veritas, who Ian is one of the best friends of Bones in the others, well, in this world, and he has been marked by a demon, and Veritas is a very rule-abiding supernatural police officer, basically. And they end up searching for, I'm trying to remember this book now. They end up searching for the same demon who has cursed them both. And in doing that, because Veritas basically is like, well, you can help me, or otherwise I can basically get you in trouble with the law. And then they end up spending a lot of time together, obviously, and falling in love. This is the only couple in this entire series for me that rivals Cat and Bones, and has that same, has the same like pull, and I get excited about reading it, about their relationship the most. None of the other books are bad. These are just the ones that like really, really, I don't know if it's the characters. I don't know if, because Ian's a character. Ian is sarcastic and doesn't really care about rules, and is very much the opposite of Veritas, where and the banter between them, the 2 of them play against each other, and like play out in a way, the same way that Cat and Bones is, where like Vlad and I can't remember his wife's name don't have less of that bantery thing initially, and this is just good time. So Ian, or just the Night Hunter series, start with Halfway to the Grave, but and there's also currently books being released that are this book, but through Bones' perspective, which I have not read yet, but I will be as soon as I can. The next one is one that surprised me too, and that is The Never King by Nikki St. Crow. This is a world where every time one of the Darling women turn 18, they are kidnapped by Peter Pan, brought to Neverland, and then eventually returned, but they do not return mentally sound. Winnie, our main character, her mother is schizophrenic, or is described as schizophrenic, and she basically comes from a bunch of mentally unstable women because of the things that happened to them on Neverland. So as her 18th birthday arrives, her mother has literally tried everything that she can do to keep Peter Pan from finding her. They've moved all over the country. They've done weird witch and voodoo and just all sorts of like magical things that they could possibly do that would make her undetectable to Peter Pan. But Peter finds her anyway, takes her back to Neverland, where she meets 3 other lost boys. Well, there's many lost boys, but she meets 3 others, specifically Cass and Bash, who are twins, and then Vane, who's this like real mysterious dark guy. And Peter, basically what Peter is looking for is who stole his shadow. It was stolen by a Darling many, many, many years ago. I don't think he even realizes how long ago it was. And he believes that the discovery of this shadow is held in the memories of the Darlings. And that by accessing her memories, she's like inherited them from her, just somewhere down her line. This turns into a reverse harem romance, which this is the first one I've read, and I just reread this for a second time, and it's not something I would normally gravitate towards. It is very erotic. It is there's a lot of smut in here. The world building is there, but not well explained, but it's super interesting the way this is all set up. So like, if they could have all been like 100 pages longer, these would be amazing. But they're 4 stars for me. But please go into, Winnie wants nothing more than these 4 lost boys, and she will do whatever she needs to do to get them. She'll do whatever she can to like have them. And I really like this. I do, because normally when you've got a character who's been kidnapped, they're usually very like, they either do real dumb shit to get out of it, or they kind of just cower, and it takes, if they're stuck in this place, it takes them forever to, like, not that you should open up to your kidnappers, but like, it just takes a long time. Winnie walks in the door, is like, you know what? You know how I'm gonna do this? I'm gonna fuck them. I'm gonna fuck them all. Quite literally. So I really like that, where she just understood what she wanted and who she wanted it from, and fucking took it. So, but there is like a fantasy plot line between, with the rivalry between Hook and Pan, and the sequel has some really interesting stuff about Vane, who is a very complex character. I shouldn't like this, but I fucking love it, and I'm really excited for the 3rd book that comes out in like a few weeks. So I am very excited about this. And again, the content warnings, just check them all out. And understand that this is very heavily smut driven. But otherwise, if you understand all of that, it's fantastic. The next recommendation is Rhapsodic and the Bargainer series by Laura Thalassa. This is a fantasy romance series that follows Callie, who is a siren, and who comes in need of the help of the Bargainer. And the Bargainer is this mythical being who basically takes care of your shit, and then you owe him. So Callie calls upon him one night and begins collecting these IOUs, but this is when she is 16, I think. Starts collecting these IOUs and then continues to collect them until she stops hearing from the Bargainer. And 7 years later, she has hundreds of beads and IOUs basically all up her arm. And after 7 years of not hearing from the Bargainer, he shows up looking to collect. This, oh my god, I do love this series. And I really like in the world here. Desmond Flynn is great. This is a fae story. And yeah, I really like the way that I'm a big fan of the Desmond-Callie relationship, specifically after this book. And like through the whole rest of it. Because again, you've got a book, you've got a couple that follows the entire series, but it's so good. And I really, really, really love their relationship. And the way Callie she needed him for some things when she was younger, but now that she's older, she knows how to kind of stand her ground a little bit better, which is a little less clingy. But I really love this series, and recommend it to you. And lastly, for the recommendations, I have King of Battle and Blood by Scarlett St. Clair. This is like a vampire, so there's vampires in here, so it's paranormal, but there's also witches, so it's fantasy. It's like this really interesting blend of paranormal and fantasy, and it's dark. This is the story of Isolde, who is promised to be married to the king of the vampires, Adrian, and she does not want this. Not at all. She wants her freedom, and she wants her freedom. And she does not want to be married to a man who is known to be very cruel. And she hates vampires. So when she threatens to kill him, well, she tries to kill him, and he basically says, you try this again, I will turn you into the undead. And she, now they have to learn to coexist in each other's spaces. They do get married. The only thing I didn't really care for in this is that the first smut scene, I guess, the first time that they have sex is very early on, and they don't particularly like each other, which it makes sense in the grand scheme of things, that Isolde is using what she's got and, you know, kind of not making herself a victim and understanding that this is a thing that she has to do for her wedding night, whatever. But for me, that takes a little bit of the tension out of it. And even if you're continuing to progress upward as the rest of the story goes on, you've already hit that one point. So that's my only like real, we'll call it an issue. But otherwise, this is a fantastic enemies to lovers vampire fantasy romance. And the sequel comes out later this year that I'm so excited for. So I think you should read this one too. I feel like I haven't had a recommendations video this long in a while. Moving on to the books that I haven't read yet, but good lord do I need to. The first one is Her Soul to Take by Harley Laroe. I believe this is a paranormal / fantasy romance that also has a ton of smut. There's a long list of kinks and fetishes, and not long list, but there's a list of kinks and fetishes in the front of the book that made me think it might not be 100% my thing. But this is about, what is this about? I don't actually know. I can't find the thing. Other side note, I hate first person descriptions because you can never actually quite get a good quick glimpse of what this book is. But I guess I'll just read the back. Leon, who I believe is our hero, I earned my reputation among magicians for a reason. One wrong move and you're dead. Killer, they called me, and killing is what I'm best at. Except her, the one I was supposed to take, the one I should have killed, I didn't. The cult that once controlled me wants her, and I'm about to lose my new toy to them. Actually, that does a really good job. I believe this is the story of Leon and Ray is involved. I think there's a cult that summons the demon, who I believe is Leon, and is supposed to kill Ray and falls in love with her instead. I don't know, it's a demon. There's a demon involved. And currently there's a bunch of people reading this and they're apparently really enjoying it. Again, that list in the front makes me think I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to like it. I'm definitely going to check it out and see. So it feels very perfect for like spooky with a side of smut, which we are entering the season. I'm going to be completely honest, I'm not entirely sure the plots of all the rest of these. So next we have then Dark Fever by Karen Marie Moaning. This is a paranormal urban fantasy suspense book. One of the things that House of Earth and Blood has uncovered, has renewed in me, is like a love for urban fantasy and the like the paranormal romance genre, which I used to read heavily in, but have not in quite a while. So I'm excited to finally read this. Plus, this has been on my shelf for a long time and I want to get it read so I can figure out if I want to continue this series, which actually might be really long. Next we have what is this called? Dead Witch Walking by Kim Harrison. I bought this, got rid of it, then somebody else recommended it to me, and then I bought it again. I think I bought this around the same time that I bought The Other Half of the Grave. When was this published? 2004 possibly. And this is the story of a supernatural bounty hunter, which I am really interested in. I think I tried to read this way back when. I think I tried to read this at a point in my life where I didn't understand reading more adult books. And I don't mean adult in like smutty times. I just mean in just, I was reading one series and I was reading Twilight and I was reading YA paranormal. And then when I tried to switch over a little bit, I was maybe I hadn't quite gotten my taste for adult books yet. So I am excited to finally try this out as a grown-up and see if I actually like this. And this is also, I think, part of a long-running series. I love a good long-running series. I might be the only one, but I do. Next, we have more from Laura Thalassa, and that is Pestilence, the first book in the Four Horsemen series. This is just some apocalyptic... Is this even fantasy? That's a real good question, isn't it? Well, if it's not, I'll find out. But this is a post-apocalyptic romance. When Pestilence comes to Sarah Burns' town, one thing is for certain. Everyone she knows and loves is marked for death. Unless, of course, the angelic-looking horseman is stopped, which is exactly what Sarah has in mind when she shoots the unholy beast off his steed. Ooh, this could be fun. Whether or not it's fantasy or not, I don't know, but sounds like a good time. I will hopefully be reading this soon because I want to read the rest of the series because apparently death is a big deal. Next on the list, we have The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen. I don't know a ton about this except for one of the princess is sent to another kingdom to marry the prince king person and is also planning on killing him, but of course she gets there and falls in love with him, which I am a fan of. Ooh, I didn't notice like the chapter headers are really pretty. I hope I didn't just spoil you on the other page because I have no idea. But I've been meaning to get to this for a long time. I have books 1 and 2 and I really need to read them ASAP because there's more books and I want to read them if they're good. And lastly, we actually have the book that I am currently reading, and that is Savage Lands by Stacey Marie Brown. This, I'm only 88 pages in, so I'm gonna go off of what I've read so far, but basically this is the story of Brexley, who is the daughter of a general in the army, but she's an orphan, and she's been kind of been living as the ward to basically the king of this. He's not an actual king, but the king of Budapest. Some of the world building's a little wonky to me still, but and basically what she does is she goes and she steals things from off trains and things like that and gives it to people who live in the Savage Lands, which is like the area between the human world, like the rich human world, and the Fey world. Still, again, world building is still in progress here, but so she's kind of like Robin Hood. And then she may have done the wrong thing and she gets caught and is sent to this prison that she's not expected to come out of alive. And apparently she meets this vicious, we have not gotten there, this vicious legend named Warwick, who is brutal, cruel, arrogant, and as lethal as the lore says he is in this prison. But apparently she's drawn to him, and there's something called the games. I'm enjoying this. I have the first 3 books, so I hope I do enjoy them because I have them all. Not all of them, this is a 6-book series, but I am enjoying this so far, and I'm really excited to continue to read this and hopefully continue on with the series. I have heard some really good things about it, and it is a pretty fast read, so I am excited to continue on. This is an enormously large stack that I don't know if I'm gonna be able to pick up. This is a bunch of paranormal and fantasy romance that I've either read and recommend to you, or that I want to read and hopefully be able to recommend to somebody in the near future. I really love this genre. It's something that really hits a lot of my buttons, really checks a lot of my boxes in terms of like angst and the darkness and the relationship dynamics. So as much as I love my contemporaries, and there is a contemporary recommendations video coming soon, I'm really excited that kind of the universe has shifted and it is now time for fantasy romance in my life. Comment down below and let me know what your favorite fantasy or paranormal romance is. I would love to add to my collection. And if you have nothing else, if you have nothing to recommend, leave a vampire emoji to let me know that you were here. Please like this video if you have liked it, and subscribe if you have not already. I would greatly appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.